greatly and very appreciatively call up, and it is my honor to bring Adam Simon up here. Shana Tova, and please reach out if you need anything.
So there was a light rain and a chill in the air on the morning of the fourth and final day of our hike. It was a group of 5 of us and a guide. We awoke early in the dark, fumbled around to pack up our tents while losing ourselves in the innumerable stars and the shadows from the bottom of the Grand Canyon. We were excited and nervous by the daunting task ahead, climbing up about 3,600 feet, carrying 45-pound packs in the chill and snow of February after days of descending and traversing dozens of miles. And so we started our way up, foot after foot, step after step, hour after hour. And about 2/3 of the way up, we took a break, took in the vast expanse one more time. I began the final ascent, this time in the front of the group, about 30 yards between me and the next person. There were several inches of fresh snow on the ground, and all I could hear was the sound of the wind off the canyon walls and my hiking poles and boots trotting through the snow as I worked my way up the trail. And with exhausted muscles, I started to count each step. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was like a mantra. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And unconsciously, I realized I was starting to hum. Yanai, nanai, 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 nanai. Yanai, nanai, yanai, nanai, nanai. Yanai, nanai, nanai, nanai. We'll do it once together. Yanai, nanai, yanai, nanai, nanai. Yanai, yanai, nanai, nanai. Yanai, nanai, yanai, nanai, nanai. Yanai, yanai, nanai, nanai. The melody distracted and inspired. It was elevating the spirituality of a place that was already overflowing with awe. Now, I began hiking more seriously during COVID, and I soon started finding the same contentment and comfort and meaning that I used to receive from Jewish prayer, now outdoors. And today, admittedly, I'm finding it harder to find those results in formal prayer. Whereas in the past, as I've shared in other Divrei Torah, synagogue communal prayer has been deeply meaningful to me. Today, I often find the prayers empty. I lose focus quickly as I start thinking about long to-do lists and long worry lists about the people and the places that I love. And I've heard the same from lots of other people. And yet, here we are. With all of our complex collective relationships with each other, with community, with concepts of God, we all chose to show up today. We're here to recite words and psalms and songs created by others that, I might add, are the same thing that we said yesterday. And yet we showed up. So why are we here? What is it about that repetition of prayer rituals that draws us, that we hope will bring us some sense of greater fulfillment? So over the last few weeks, I went on a learning journey. I wrestled with this question. I read books. I talked to rabbis and educators. I peppered family and friends. My son said I pestered family and friends, which is a very subtle difference. But at this moment in my life, and in full candor, I didn't find what I was looking for. I don't have, despite my expectations and real wishes, some inspiring and resonant, unified theory of meaningful Jewish ritual prayer. The first draft of this drash was actually a compilation of all those other reasons that I learned motivate so many other people for ritual prayer. And I have that version. If anyone's interested, let me know. Happy to share it. Most of those ideas I found intellectually very interesting, but they failed to sustain me past the work that it requires to do ritual prayer, and the challenge to go beyond what otherwise would be meaningless, rote repetition. Now, I do not intend at all to be critical of the reasons that you might have for engaging in ritual prayer, and quite the opposite. I would love to hear about them, to learn about what is it that inspires you through this process. But I'm not coming to you today with an answer. But I am going to come to you with what I have taken from this learning experience, which is a desire to explore, a desire to experiment in 4 different ways, approaching prayer for me in the year ahead. So first, find spirituality in the small steps. In a commentary on the Mishnah, we learn about Rabbi Akiva, a learned and spiritual Talmudic giant. And there's a parable in which Rabbi Akiva is equated to a stonecutter who takes a pickaxe and sits on a mountain and chips tiny little pebbles out of the mountain. And some came by to him and say, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm uprooting the mountain and will cast it into the Jordan River." And the other people chastise him and say, "You can't uproot an entire mountain." But he continues to hack away until he comes upon a big rock. And now, with the space around the rock that he has chiseled away, he crawls underneath and he breaks the big rock loose, and it tumbles down the mountain into the Jordan. In this story, the stonecutter and also Rabbi Akiva realize they make change in the world through small chips, through small steps. And I wonder if I can find spirituality in the same, just as I did when hiking out of that canyon, one step at a time. What are the small moments that I can elevate? The small interactions that I can dwell on? The magic I can find in what otherwise might seem mundane? This is a motivation for a practice I've taken on over the last year, today marking the 1-year anniversary, with a few friends to try to share every single day things that we are grateful for. Every single day, things we are grateful for. There's another Talmudic story of a widow who, while she had a synagogue in her neighborhood, went to a rabbi in another neighborhood, Rabbi Yochanan, in his yeshiva in another town. And the rabbi says to her, "Isn't there a shul in your neighborhood? Like, why are you coming all the way to me?" And she says, "Rabbi, don't I attain a reward for all the steps I take while praying in a distant study hall?" I liked this very different take on Fitbits. The widow is challenging Rabbi Yochanan that each step she takes to get to his yeshiva is meaningful. Each step matters. Each bit of effort matters. It's all about gradually working through a spiritual journey. And the farther we go, the better off we are. In ritual prayer, then, where can I see individual moments, phrases, melodies, or words that are meaningful? And how can I layer them on each other? And where do I find awe in the small things in life? And how can I pull those observations, that awe, into how I show up to pray? I love an image that was taught to me by my chavruta, Rachel Gildener, that just like an EKG, the diagram of a heartbeat, you need the small moments to support the big moments. I hope to celebrate each step and make space for the infrequent yet powerful, awe-inspiring leaps. Number 2, reject judgment. I'm trying to give myself permission, inspired by Rabbi Jacob and reiterated by so many others, to make prayer ritual more choose your own adventure and less keeping up with the Joneses. I'm trying not to worry about where the congregation is and let my own process evolve. There's this line in the Musaf, we'll read in a few minutes, which about finding divinity in a still small voice amid the cacophony of revelation. I want to try breathing through those words, letting my thoughts appear and disappear without self-critique, sitting with the meditation while I feel, sometimes paying attention to, but sometimes perhaps not necessarily focusing on Rabbi Yosef's spirited melodies. I did this yesterday, actually. At the beginning of the Amida, it's like something hit me. At the beginning of the Amida, there's this line, Adonai, sifar tiftach ufi yagid tilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may speak your praise. And I saw the commentary. It said, help me, O God, to pray. It's a prayer asking for help, praying. It's very meta. And I sat at the beginning of Amida with that question. What does it mean to ask God for help? Praying. Rabbi Sharon Brous describes how suspended doubt and disbelief allows us to hope and to believe that anything is possible. We can't conceptualize a new future without overcoming our self-censorship. My hope is to accomplish what the writer Gary Eberle describes. We slip into a realm where there is enough of everything, where we are not trying to fill a void in ourselves or in the world. Time stands still. The clock does not stop, of course, but we don't hear the ticking. In Psalms it says, Ani tefillah, I am prayer. Not I pray, Ani mitpalel, but Ani tefillah, I am prayer. 3, flip the experience. My friend Rabbi Avi Kilip shared and challenged me not to consider how these Jewish texts and rituals surrounding them could be meaningful, but instead to start with what my greatest needs are and what's keeping me up at night. What am I afraid of? Where am I feeling lonely? What's holding me back? Perhaps I could start prayer with one of those questions and then dive into the experience, ground in what it is that I really need right now, and see what happens. I'm curious to try. In that light, Jewish ritual prayer may help me create a muscle memory for wrestling with complex and multifaceted ideas, like I'm flawed, I can improve, I'm in deep loving relationships that are complicated, I'm simultaneously infinitesimally small and profoundly important. I can too quickly and not quickly enough judge myself and others. Throughout these days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I wrestle with these questions through many hours of davening, many Amidas, dozens of piyutim. Perhaps by the end of Yom Kippur, stripped down through fasting and bulked up through prayers, I'll be able to confront my vulnerabilities and existential questions. Because let's be honest, we all need support. I feel like I'm still recovering from the uncertainty of COVID and how to stay healthy and how to try to keep my family healthy. We're in this national economic roller coaster. There's a profound youth mental health crisis. There's all the nervousness about artificial intelligence. There's real threats to US democracy and to Israel's democracy. And all of us, my family included, has lots of challenges. And that's all before the personal urgencies that I know many of you are experiencing with sick parents, dying parents, kids' struggles, job dissatisfactions, and more. Almost everyone I know is a little bit on edge. In this context of disruptive lives, I was thinking about the whole derivation of the prayer structure. These words and their order were conceptualized by a set of rabbis after the temple was destroyed, establishing ritual prayer as a replacement for sacrifices, mirroring the temple's sacrificial schedule. I wonder if the perceived need for such this stable practice was in part because people's lives were so completely turned around with the temple's destruction. The focal point of spiritual living was gone. And with a world in disarray and without clarity, davening at set times with set words may have brought a lot of comfort. So too today, maybe davening at set times with set words can help provide an anchor in a time of complexity. We start with the complexity and then can get to answers through that anchor. I don't need to fumble for what words to say, perhaps. when I'm in a moment of upheaval. They're right there. Mourner's Kaddish works. In this way, davening is the exact opposite of Facebook or Instagram. Prayer is a way to elevate out of urgency of the mundane to the timelessness of the holy. Enables us to consider things that are more than just what is right in front of us in time and space. I want to start with that vision first, and then get to the words later. Fourth, and expressing greater soulfulness in my davening. There are two elements of soulfulness that I think can expand my experience with ritual prayer. First, as Jen spoke about, is our community. We're blessed to have this spirited, supported, and inspired intentional community. I find that this community both contributes to meaningful prayer and is enhanced by meaningful prayer. We're all here today. We're not thinking the same thing, we're not feeling the same thing, but we're having a shared experience, which grounds us together. Or as Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, in sort of the spirit of Rav Soloveitchik, says, the purpose of Jewish ritual is to free ourselves from the isolation of the now and the loneliness of the I. And second, when I think about the best moments I've ever experienced prayer, they almost always include evocative music. Perhaps why that nigun came to me while hiking up that hill. Earlier this week, I had a very special and privileged experience along with Rabbi Jacob and about 150 other people. I was invited on behalf of my employer to attend a Rosh Hashanah celebration hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff at the National Observatory. And they both spoke eloquently and compellingly, and both without notes, surprisingly, about the fight against anti-Semitism and using the shofar as a call to be optimistic and to fight hatred. But I gotta tell you, I was actually most moved by the opening musical act, Regina Spektor. This Russian Jewish immigrant who fled persecution as a Jew, was resettled in the United States by Hias, and now is a major global performer, was given a platform to sing whatever she wanted at the seat of government. And what did she choose? Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu. It was soulful. It was inspiring. It resonated. It made me shudder. It was beautiful. And it was prayer. This year, I want to take advantage of the immense skills of Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Annie and others in our community and beyond to create Jewish musical spaces. And I want to contribute to those experiences for myself and for others. You know, as I reflected on these four ideas of putting holiness in the small, finding holiness in the small things, rejecting judgment, putting goals first, and bringing greater soulfulness, I realized that they're not only helpful for wrestling with ritual prayer, but they're also the anchors of making any kind of behavioral change in our lives. To improve communications with a loved one, learn a new skill, take better care of myself, all of these things and more will be enhanced by valuing the small steps that I can take that lead to change, by rejecting self-judgment and what I assume others are judging about me, by putting goals first so I know what it is that I'm working towards, and anchoring that change in soulfulness and in community. U.S. women's megastar Megan Rapinoe was asked recently about the penalty kick she took and missed against Sweden, helping send the team home far earlier than any recent World Cup and ending Rapinoe's beyond illustrious career on a somewhat tragic note. And the reporter asked, what was going through your mind as you went up to kick? And she said, I'm going to score. Honestly, something has made me so successful in penalty kicks for so long is the acceptance and the realization that I will miss them. I miss them a lot in training, regularly. I've been lucky not to miss a lot in actual competition, but eventually that can happen. But I love taking them. I would take them all the time. I would take that one again. I would pick me to take that shot again. For a long time, I've thought about missing one in a really big moment. But then, what else are you going to do? The only thing would be to not take one, and I'm not going to do that. I would rather step up and be in that moment. So, I invite you to step up and walk with me in trying to be in these ritual prayer moments, to sing, to experiment, to fail, to succeed, and to engage with one another. That is our work. Shana Tova Umetuka, with blessings and strength to find comfort and contentment and meaning through this Rosh Hashanah and beyond. Shana Tova.